Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the SkyBox Dominion card sets for football for both 1999 and 2000. Dominion was created because when SkyBox was originally created, it was created as an adjunct to NBA Hoops, and then that got rebranded as SkyBox with NBA Hoops as the base brand that went alongside it. But they immediately jumped over into football, and SkyBox was the standard bearer in football. But for a base brand, they couldn't use NBA Hoops. It didn't make any sense for a number of reasons, not the least of which was Pro Set was the official set for the official card brand for the NFL, or the closest thing they had. So they needed to have something that was distinct to SkyBox that could work as a base brand, and Impact was the name that they went with. So Impact always worked as that lower tier card set alongside SkyBox that was easier to access for casual collectors. And they almost right away started doing some very basic, fun to collect parallels that worked well for Impact. But as they got through the mid 1990s, they were not sure the Impact was really, that there was much of a place for Impact in football. Because over in basketball, NBA Hoops always had a place because it was kind of that standard set. It was like the basketball equivalent of what Topps was in baseball. It was the card set that you collect at a very basic level. So in basketball, it made sense in part because of tradition and in part because basketball was not a crowded market. Football was very crowded. And as you were getting into the late 1990s, there wasn't a lot of space for basic card brands because there was just too much that you had to aggressively pursue. So Impact kind of fell out of favor, and they evolved it in a weird way that just didn't quite work. And by 1998, they'd given up on Impact. They kind of turned it into Thunder. And they realized, no, we got to restart things. And so in 1999, they decided to go back to basics. Just make a simple, basic card set. Dominion was the name that they went with, and this is a no-frills card set. I mean, there are no parallels for the basic cards. It's just a 225 card set and some inserts, and that's it. Now, the cards in the set are really nice cards. They're full bleed cards with a black and white background and some silver text down below. The player is in full color, which is wonderful contrast to the background, allowing these cards to look elegant in the way that you would expect for a SkyBox card to really come across. And so for the card set, it was well designed on the card front. I don't even want to talk about the card back though. But that was it. There are no subsets in this, just veterans and then also rookies. So the rookies were handled the exact same way, except instead of a black and white or a silver background, the rookies have a gold background and they have gold foil. And so this is the way the rookies come across, as just the rookie counterpart to the veterans, which is a really good pairing. But this is only the main rookies. Then they have a whole bunch of rookies tagged on after them, where it is a horizontal card with two players on each one. The cards are otherwise treated basically the exact same way, but it gives you the ability to cram a bunch more rookies into the card set, so it doesn't bog down the set, but it also adds an interesting quirk to it, where in some cases the cards have two players from the same team. In other cases they have different players, but it does make it a very interesting, a very different experience than just about anything else that you were finding at this time. And that was it. I mean, that was all there was to say about the main set. And that's because the only thing they bothered to do for chase cards was inserts, specifically 4 insert sets. And this does get a little bit more complex. So the first insert set is called Atlantitude. And this is a card set where the idea is these are players who are able to make a pretty good run at the Super Bowl, or there's a good chance they'll be able to. Interestingly, if you read the card back, it's actually talking to the player. Weird approach. Very unique approach though. But with these cards, the surface is a mirror chrome surface, which makes the card lose all of the aesthetic strength that the design has for it. But that's for the basic insert card. They also have 2 parallels, and the main parallel is called Atlantitude Plus, or plus is tacked onto the end of whatever insert set this is named for. The 3 main inserts all have these parallels. So plus is the basic parallel, and here instead of a mirror surface they have a satiny finish with horizontal stripes on it that are actual streaks that are on it like a paintbrush. And that satiny finish gives a really wonderful glow to the card that allows the design of the card to actually read on these. And so it's a great parallel, and the parallels are pretty easy to get for in comparison, because they're not the easiest cards in the world, but they are an accessible parallel, so that is good. But the difference between the surfaces of these two cards is a pretty fascinating thing to look at, because the mirror surface is the mirror surface. It's such a difference when you go over to the plus surface with that streaked satiny finish. So it is a little bit tricky when you're looking on a place like eBay to see which one it is, but you can usually tell the difference between it. So if a seller doesn't realize which one it is usually possible for you to figure it out, in case you're curious. But that was the first insert set. The next insert set was called Gen Next, and this is a set of just rookies. The cards are two-toned, and they have the same mirror finish, and then they also have the same parallel. The plus cards are the parallel for this. And then we have a third set called Goal to Go, and this is a card set with a mirror finish on one side, but not on the other, which is important because this has a player on the front, usually a rookie, and then on the back they have a whole nother player. So this card set is a two-faced card set where only one side, the proper front, is the one that has the mirror finish, and obviously that's also where the satin finish is. But this is a good time for me to talk about the other parallel, which is a lot harder to get, and that is called Warp Tech. Warp Tech is, for each one of these three insert sets, it's the same card, but it has a lenticular card front. And the lenticular surface, the effect, is one that's actually pretty common for lenticular creations, but very rarely do we see it in cards, which is the bubbles behind the player. And the bubbles kind of move around, the lighting moves around. It's a really neat effect. It is one that's a very unique effect, and so you don't want to use it very often, but this is a card where this effect comes through extremely well. But this is an extremely difficult insert to get. In fact, for Latitude, don't even try, because the cards are all serial numbered to the jersey number. And the jersey numbers are all really low. Almost all of them are really low. So you're probably not ever going to be getting one of the Latitudes, but you can get one of the Warp Techs of the other two insert sets. But again, they are pretty rare cards. And then there's only one other insert set to go to discuss, and that is their jersey cards, which actually aren't jersey cards. They are fabric cards, but it is a swatch of a hat from the NFL draft. So on the back you get a picture of a hat, but basically every single player put on this draft hat and then took it off, and then they cut it up and put it onto the cards, and these are also individually serial numbered. And that was it. That was 1999. I mean, very basic. They just went in with a simple set and 4 insert sets, and the insert sets did have most of them had parallels, and they just kind of got out of the way and allowed the packs to just kind of be discovered on the shelves. It was enough that in 2000 they were able to do Dominion again, but they wanted to change things up because you really do need to have some sort of a chase. And while they got away from the cumbersome nature of the really difficult chase cards or difficult parallels that you saw in just about every other set, it still would be nice to have parallels. So in 2000, they built the card set around parallels. And you can see this right with the basic cards, where it has a white border around the outside that fades into the background, and then the player is centered within all of that. The card backs are a lot better. But this is a card that's entirely designed around the parallel, and this is for the entire set. Every single card has a parallel of Dominion Extra. And this is, well, what else? They just added a mirror chrome surface on the front. And it is an interesting parallel. It's fun to collect them, and they were common enough in packs that this was the kind of set that you could actually try to pursue, but not so common as it gets boring. So they hit kind of a sweet spot between the two. I think they could have done a little bit better with making them a little bit more popular, or a little bit more common, but still, the cards are a really good complement across the entire set. And by the entire set, I mean veterans, and then of course they have their main rookie cards. These are done in, there's nothing really special about these cards. Again, they have the gold background behind them. And then again, they did the 2 cards on each card for the last portion of the rookies. And these are more scattered. You have less cards where they have 2 players on a single, or from the same team on the same card. So it is a lot more haphazard where these dual cards are, but that's how they closed out the set. So again, about the same size of the set, and all the cards do have parallels. So this obviously leads us to the inserts, and with the inserts, once again, we have 4 insert sets. And the first one is Go-To Guys. And here is, once again, a chrome surface for the card. And it is, it's kind of a jumbled mess. The card doesn't really have a lot of strong detailing in the design to compete with the chrome mirror surface of the card. So it is, it's there. It is certainly there. And then the next one they have is called Hardcores. And Hardcore is a card where it's just, this is a solid white card with the player kind of pasted right on there in the middle. But the whole theme about the whole thing that makes this card interesting is that the hardcore text is actually embossed. So it's pushed through, and it has a metallic silver finish on it that actually glows really well, which makes this card kind of interesting. They also have a card set called Characteristics. And for Characteristics, this is where they have I assume it's Japanese. I didn't bother to really make sure I knew which language it is, but I assume it's Japanese. A character that represents a word describing the player. And for Terrell Davis, who was very famous for playing in the Super Bowl with the migraine, toughness, that's definitely what he's going with. And these cards are very, very distinct because they once again have the chrome finish. So the hardcore did not, but here they once again have the chrome mirror finish on the card, but they have it rounded and not like a playing card. These are bigger rounds. And then they have a bunch of text characters spread around on the card, kind of a jumbled mess, but cards that are very, very distinct, very unique. They truly are. But of note, right in the middle of the card where the character is that he is partially covering, that's actually an etched surface. So it has a whole sparkly quality that's really quite cool. And then the last insert set that they have is called Turfs Up. And here with this card, this is actually very much a carryover of the 1997 Impact cards. Really interesting, cool design, but they have a gold holofoil text that says Turfs Up on the card, and that's the big distinguisher. And, well, that's it for 2000. So, as you can see, Dominion was not a very cumbersome affair. This was a card set that was designed to be just lean and simple, and unfortunately, Fleer SkyBox didn't have a place for it moving forward. So in much the same way that Impact kind of fell out of favor because Fleer SkyBox they had too many options and SkyBox Impact didn't really have a place. Well, for Dominion, it tried to take over a spot that was just kind of sitting there open, but Impact came back in 2000, which kind of crowded it out. And really, this was a jumbled era where there was a lot of confusion and so many sets were 1 or 2 and dones. And that's very much the case with this. I don't really know what they could have done with it necessarily, but the card sets, this is a very distinct pair of card sets. The 2000 sets, one you're going to see in other sports, but the 1991 is one that I look at and I'm really kind of intrigued what else they could have done with. It's too bad they didn't. But again, simple little sets, and these are the kinds of sets that if you're a player collector or a set collector, these are fun to just get out of the way because it really doesn't take too much until you get to the Warp Tech, and then that takes a long time. But till you get to the Warp Tech, it's still very lean, very, very clean affair. So that's SkyBox Dominion. Now, I've almost finished all of the SkyBox sets that they did for football. So if you're curious about other sets, I've got a whole bunch that I've done already. I haven't done EX, and that's EX and LE. I think are just about the last ones I have left for SkyBox. So I'm getting down toward the end. So there's a lot of SkyBox if you want to check it out. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I do urge you to do so. And well, yeah, thank you very much for watching.